5 years ago, where
Wow.
which is now our turf for football, was once NFL female. So I started writing pretty much at that time, of course, for the Colts. Our family here are season ticket members, so of course we're always at the games, and yes, we do travel 2.5 hours to the home games every time. And, not a big deal. And then I kind of took a hiatus after a couple years because, I have young kids, and of course, as much as probably one person would like this as a career, it pretty much, it just simply can't be 24/7.
Hashtag mom life.
Exactly. So, I always had that itch to get back into it, writing and all that. And Russell Baxter was always, messaging me. He's like, hey, if you're ever wanting to write, just, let me know and I can help you out. I can find you someplace or, and I always thought, well, maybe I'll think about it. Well, the past couple seasons, with Andrew Luck hurt and everything, I'm like, there's nothing really for me to write about because I just simply stuck with the Colts. And I would say last August, finally, Russell messaged me again. He's like, hey, why don't you start writing? Because I told him, I was kind of, leaning towards writing again. And he's like, well, why don't you just start on preseason? But, do one article at a time. Let's see where it goes. And sure enough, I just started writing.
That's the spark that took the fire.
Yes. And then I started expanding myself a little bit more, started writing about the AFC South because everyone loves to talk about it, whether good or bad. It's the easiest division, it's whatever it is. And I just started my way there and got introduced into podcasting. And I did one podcast and I was in love with it. I'm like, we got to do this again. We got to do this again. So pretty much I know Russell gives me that I'm the mastermind of PFG Vodcast. I put together the podcast, I produce it, I do everything else, and we're going to have a lot of fun within the next couple months. You think it's the off season right now. We have a lot of great stuff coming away. So, of course I write, with Russell. I do some articles on his Pro Football Guru. And then also we do the PFG Vibe where me and him will take on like a particular issue or whatever it is. And, I'll give him my insight, which is, VI, voice insight. And he'll give his expertise. And, he's got a lot of expertise there. So, between me and him, we take on one article and we just put it together. And then we started out with the podcast. But of course, I also do still write for our turf for the Colts. And it gets so
that's awesome with the loyalty.
Everything at once. Yes. I started out with them, then I left, and then they asked me to come back. And I told them, you know what? You guys started me out. I'd be more than happy to come. And, writing with such a group of women with all the knowledge that they have. And, we have, of course, different teams. Of course, there's different writers, and we all just come together and we write and we, group text and all that, and we talk about different situations. It's nice to write with a bunch of women like that. And that's pretty much how I got started. And here I am.
So
on your show.
What's probably the most difficult thing you've had to overcome since you started, or I mean, even if it's kind of self-inflicted, I guess, because I know being a writer, this is why I podcast, because writing is, I failed from start of school to end of school in English. I'm not a writer.
Mm-hmm.
I have to respect these guys that do that.
Yes, there's, it's different, and especially with nowadays, writing had always come naturally for me to the point where I actually, part of my major in college was English because I just didn't know what to do during that time during college. So I majored in English. I did some writings and things like that. But, it's everything nowadays. Just recording, just doing a voice recording to yourself and then interpreting it and putting it on paper, it becomes a lot easier than what it was, back in the day before we had all these, podcasts and recordings and things like that, where you're recording, pretty much writing everything on paper.
Back in my day, when we had a number 2 pencil and that old straight round and blue notebook with the fringes all ripped out of there.
This is correct. This is correct.
Well, Russell told me he had to etch his stone when he carried his tablet down with Moses, is what he said.
Yeah.
Oh, he would. He would. Yes. I don't, we just, we're well together, I guess. He gives his expertise. That's why. I'll just leave it all to him. But yeah, I mean, just compared to writing and podcasting, sometimes with podcasting, you have to have a very, very good topic just to let it just spill out. And, I take a couple takes. I remember my first podcast, it was just really, really, like, what do I say here? If I say something wrong, people are going to hear it, and they can actually go back and, re-listen to it again. But, doing both is really not that bad.
That's the best way to do it, though, is fix those mistakes.
Well, yeah, but you know what? It seems to be everybody's in the hot take business, and I think that's where Dave and I try to be different. It's like, there's enough of that going on. It feels like, I guess I put it like this, Julie, when I think of the hot take business right now. My grandfather used to tell me every person is born on an island surrounded by bridges. And if you spend your entire life running around with a gas can, burning all your bridges, sooner or later you're stuck on an island all by yourself with nowhere to go. And when you hot take all these things, that you burn bridges, you upset people, and yet, yeah, it might make you famous for 5 minutes, but this is such a knee-jerk and short attention span. People just move on from that, and you're forgotten about a lot sooner. It just takes more patience, like with building a football team, to do this the right way.
Exactly. I was always taught, if you're writing something, keep it as long as somebody sits on the toilet, because that's probably where they're reading.
Yeah. Hey. Not going to lie, I do a lot of my reading on the porcelain.
There you go. Yeah. That's what you could take, next time you write something. Okay, it's got to be this long.
Well, I actually got a new thing to bring up, Julie. I got to say, even though the Packers had a top 5 draft, I think the Colts are right up there. I think they had a top 5 draft. I look at y'all's picks, and y'all didn't even have a number 1 pick, and I am jealous of what y'all had. And I know the Packers had a good draft, but I look at y'all and I'm like, I'm jealous because there's talent in almost every single phase of the game you're getting in the first 5 picks.
Yes, I mean, with Chris Ballard, I stick with my words. I think he is just a mastermind at all this. And of course, it seems like a repeat from last season as well, because I don't recall, a very high top pick. And of course, he goes with, somebody who just recently won Rookie of the Year, which was Darius Leonard. And then we put in Quentin Nelson. Of course, he was the first pick. I'm sorry. Yes, he was the first pick from Notre Dame. And that guy is scary when you see him on the field. So,
I love his intimidation he has before pre-games. I love it.
And the cool thing about that pick is he took a guard at 6, and that is not done in this league. First round guards are rare, but that's
an all-pro guard for the next 14 years.
That still took a lot of kahunas, given that a lot of people felt you could have moved back, collected picks, got him. He said, nope, this is how you fix your team. This is what I'm doing. And that's why I kept pounding the table saying, we got Aaron Rodgers here. Quit getting the guy hit. Look at what the Colts did, and their quarterback is coming off injury. Just copy what Chris Ballard did, and you should be okay.
Exactly. And at this town hall meeting, Andrew Luck actually spoke, and they wanted him to, speak on his offensive line, which, of course, with the rookies there, with, Quentin Nelson, and then we had Mark Lewinsky and all that. He's like, what else can I say about this offensive line if I was one of the quarterbacks that was 3 sacks? You have to, go with something like that. You have to protect that quarterback. And I think the many seasons that we've gone through, including, as you know, with Andrew Luck getting injured, that probably was part of the reason. And now we have this offensive line guarding that quarterback, allowing Andrew to, read and just move, and that completely made a difference. And, we have to give credit where credit is given, especially with Chris Ballard. He's sitting there. He knows what he's doing. especially with this coming past draft that we just had. He traded the first round pick, got a second round, and I believe it's just going to be one of them seasons again.
Well, here, look, Julie, this is what I mean by prepared, because I'm such a geek when it just comes to the draft. I actually sit down, and if I have to rewatch it, I write down all 255 picks in order and what team they went. So you guys actually did trade, but you traded back, and in the first round, 26 overall is where you ended up trading back into. You took Montez Sweat, the outside linebacker from Mississippi State. He was the guy was considered a top 10 in all the mock drafts, top 15. Then you end up with 3 second-round picks where you get Rockison, who is a good corner, Ben, the outside linebacker.
Corner, I love it.
Yeah, right. And then you get Paris Campbell, who a lot of people had going in the first round to all kinds
That's
of different
the pick
teams
I'm
from
jealous
Ohio
of
State.
right there.
You guys ended up with
right.
11 players, 7 defensive players, and 4 offensive players. And I mean, I'm just looking at it like your defense, your 7 defensive players, 2 outside linebackers in the first and second round, an inside linebacker in the third round, 3 DBs, 1 in the second, and CB in the second round, and 2 safeties in the second, or in the fourth and fifth round. I mean, the other guys you had 2 receivers took in the second and fifth. I mean, they almost rebuilt both sides of the ball just in draft picks alone, and yet those are almost luxury picks because of what they've done in the past. It's very genius because it's cheap talent, and yet there's still enough veterans there with what they did. Look, you got, again, there's a lot of comparisons there of what the Packers should be doing and are doing and what the Colts are doing, and it's just amazing. You guys did awesome. You really look at what happened. Wow. I mean,
the one thing last year, the Colts had a lot of lower name, not known name players playing receiver besides Ty, playing DBs, and the only name we knew on the Colts defense really was Darius Leonard. Like, not saying we don't know, but it's just the fact that like you hear all the time was Darius Leonard. And now you look at this draft, it's like Ballard, okay, we have Luck as our general on the offense. We need our general on the defense. I don't know how Darius Leonard fell through that draft and then got snagged by I don't know how that many teams didn't see what was there. And then on top of that, what we just talked about, Rocky Sin, Banagu, and then you add in the safeties y'all picked up, and probably one of the most talented picks I loved was Bobby Okereke. I loved him out of Stafford. And if you put him in middle linebacker next to Darius Leonard, watch out with that front seven.
Yes, exactly. And, exactly like the same as last season, Ballard likes to pick, like you said, these cheap players, they're talented according to Ballard. But it's not just about the talent, it's that they have the ability to learn, the ability to become playmakers, the ability to just get into that game and get in there on the fly, and they make a huge difference. And I wish, you guys had the eyes of Chris Ballard, you're sitting here, I wish the Colts would do this. That's just what it is. And I think that alone it's mastermind. That's all I could say.
Well, Ballard with having the biggest cap space in free agency as well, and then resisting the obvious free agents like Le'Veon Bell or C.J. Mosley, like that to me shows where he wants to go and shows he doesn't need to go ahead and grab the big name players to be able to get his team to win. Y'all went to the playoffs after T.Y. Hilton. There was nobodies after him last year. It was a lot of street free agents that were picked up because so many injuries were piling up for y'all. I mean, Eric Ebron was a tight end that was a solid force in the end zone, and I got to say this on the side, I love how the fact that everyone cursed him out in Detroit saying he drops everything, he can't play. He goes to Indy and he puts up stupid numbers with Andrew Luck. I'm like, and that's just a side point of Matt Stafford doesn't know how to play quarterback. But anyways, I just think that Chris Ballard stuck to his guns and didn't grab the big name free agents, like I said a little bit ago. But that's huge to me. Like he had the biggest cap